We will explore the deep historical roots and philosophical shifts that created the systems of government many of us live under today. Let's begin with page 1, titled Defining Modern Democracy. The image here sets the scene: citizens standing at ballot boxes in a sleek, modern hall. This is the end result of centuries of struggle and thought, the simple yet powerful act of casting a vote. But what does that act actually mean? Moving to page 2, we must first define our terms. The core concept of democracy is simple. It is rule by the people. Democracy centers on a specific principle, that power resides with citizens. In this system, sovereignty is exercised through participation in governance and decision-making processes. It's not just about having a leader, it's about where that leader's power comes from. The text outlines two main types of democratic systems. First, we have direct democracy. This system enables citizens to vote on laws themselves. Every citizen has a direct say in specific policies. Second, there is representative democracy, often called a republic. This involves electing officials to make decisions on behalf of the people. This is the most common form we see in large nations today. On page 3, we travel back in time. We see the Acropolis bathed in sunlight. Our journey begins with the roots in ancient Athens. While we often think of democracy as a modern invention, its foundations were laid thousands of years ago in Greece. The visuals of ancient ruins remind us that these ideas have stood the test of time, influencing political thought for millennia. Page 4 takes us specifically to the 5th century BCE to examine Athenian direct democracy. The Athenians created the Ecclesia Assembly. This body allowed male citizens to vote directly on laws and policies. This was a massive shift in human history, establishing the foundation for citizen participation in governance. However, we must acknowledge the limitations and legacy of Athenian democracy. It was not perfect by modern standards. The system excluded women, slaves, and foreigners. Yet, despite these exclusions, Athens introduced a revolutionary concept: civic duty. The idea of active citizenship, that you are responsible for your city-state, influences democracies to this day. Turning to page 5, the scene shifts from Greece to Italy. Here we explore the Roman Republic and rule of law. While Athens gave us the idea of the vote, Rome gave us the structure of law. The image of the Roman Forum represents a different kind of power, one built on institutions and legal codes rather than just the gathering of citizens. This was Rome's written legal code. Crucially, it established that laws must be public and accessible. This created a precedent for transparent governance and legal accountability. You couldn't be punished for a law you couldn't see. This leads us to the rule of law principle. This is the revolutionary concept that no one stands above the law, not even leaders. This principle became a cornerstone of modern democratic governance and justice systems. Without the rule of law, democracy cannot function efficiently. Moving to page 7, we shift from political structures to moral ones. We are looking at the Judeo-Christian tradition. The image of scrolls and scales suggests a blend of religious morality and justice. Democracy isn't just about mechanics. It requires a belief in the value of the people participating in it. On page 8, we explore the moral foundation of equality. The Judeo-Christian tradition introduced the belief that all individuals possess equal worth before God. This spiritual concept challenged hierarchical power structures and planted the seeds for universal human rights. If everyone is equal in the eyes of the divine, why shouldn't they be equal in the eyes of the state? This led to challenging the divine right of kings. Religious principles of individual responsibility and worth eventually undermined the concept that monarchs ruled by divine appointment, paving the way for democratic governance. We are looking at a pivotal document, the Magna Carta, signed in 1215. The visual of an illuminated manuscript highlights the importance of written agreements in history. This document represents a major turning point where the absolute power of a king was first formally checked. We break down the impact of the Magna Carta in limiting royal power. English nobles compelled King John to accept restrictions on the monarchy. This established a vital precedent. Even kings must operate within legal boundaries and respect the rights of their subjects. These were foundational democratic principles. The Magna Carta introduced concepts we take for granted today: due process, trial by jury, and property protections. These principles became fundamental to limited government and individual liberty. Fast forward several centuries to page 11. We arrive at the English Bill of Rights of 1689. The image of a coronation ceremony reminds us that while monarchy persisted, the balance of power was shifting. This document didn't just limit the king, it empowered the people's representatives. Following the Glorious Revolution, citizens gained specific rights. They could petition the monarch, Protestants were allowed to bear arms, and crucially, they could participate in free elections without interference. This resulted in parliamentary supremacy achieved. The document firmly established Parliament's authority over the monarchy, creating a constitutional framework that balanced royal power with representative government. Introduces a new era, the Enlightenment, the Age of Reason. We see portraits of great thinkers. This was an intellectual explosion in Europe, where philosophers began to question everything about how society was organized. The core theme is reason over tradition. Enlightenment thinkers revolutionized political philosophy. They applied logic and reason, rather than religious doctrine or tradition, to questions of governance and society. They effectively applied the scientific method to politics. The same empirical thinking transforming natural sciences was directed towards social problems. This created systematic theories about government, rights, and political legitimacy. Introduces Thomas Hobbes and the idea of the social contract. Hobbes painted a grim picture of life without government, famously describing it as nasty, brutish, and short. He argued that in their natural state, humans live in constant fear and conflict, requiring strong authority to maintain order. His solution was trading freedom for safety. In his book Leviathan, 1651, Hobbes proposed that people surrender certain freedoms to a powerful sovereign. In exchange, they receive protection and social stability. Presents a counter-argument from John Locke, Natural Rights. This is perhaps the most important slide for understanding the American Revolution and modern democracy. Locke agreed that we have a contract with the government, but he argued in his two treatises of government, 1690, that we have inherent natural rights that exist before any government is formed. He identified these as life, liberty, and property. Hobbes said, the government gives you rights. Locke said, no, you are born with rights. The government's only job is to protect them. The text notes that no government can legitimately violate or remove these rights. And here is the dynamite: revolutionary right to overthrow tyranny. Locke argued that when governments fail to protect citizens' natural rights, the contract is broken. At that point, the people possess the legitimate authority to dissolve that government. This was the intellectual permission slip for the American Declaration of Independence. Introduces Baron de Montesquieu and the separation of powers. We see the structure of modern government. In the Spirit of the Laws, 1748, Montesquieu proposed dividing power to prevent tyranny. He identified three branches: the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. By separating these functions, each branch could check the other's power, creating balanced governance. This system became foundational to the United States Constitution and numerous modern democracies worldwide.